This time we will discuss a South Korean comedy action film entitled Oki. Madam. This film, which premiered in cinemas in August 2020, tells the story of the comedic action of a husband and wife fighting against terrorists who hijacked a plane and took their family hostage. My Young plays an ordinary housewife who sells cakes at the market, as well as the wife of Seok-Hwan as her husband, who works as a computer repairman. This story tells the tension between a hacker and a secret agent in handling a plane hijacking case. This film contains a glimpse of a funny story, so it is interesting to read and tell to friends, partners, family, and other relatives. In 2009 in Mongolia, a 20-story apartment or building was seen at night. Several people were walking in the hallway and each of them was carrying a firearm. When the door opened, there was gunfire between two North Korean special forces who were assigned to sneak into a building. They are Gwae-soon and Cheol-seong. But in the middle of the task, Gwae-soon gets a voice message via a smartwatch on her wrist. The voice message was sent by her father to cancel the mission, also telling her not to trust anyone, because the people there intended to kill her. Hearing that, Gwae-soon began to suspect that Cheol-seong was her colleague's friend. Gwae-soon is seen shooting her colleague and then rushing away from the room. Meanwhile, in a room, Gwae-soon's father was approached by a man who passed by a corpse lying on the floor carrying a firearm. Then the man pointed the gun at Gwae-soon's father. In the kitchen, there was a woman frying dough in hot oil. In 2020 in Incheon, South Korea, there was a sunny day and a busy market, and among the stalls, there was a middle-aged woman named My Young who was selling cake. Instantly, My Young's merchandise was sold out as she turned over a piece of paper containing the words that her cakes were sold out. The merchandise sold quickly because many people liked it. Seok-Hwan is seen as My Young's husband, who works as an electronics repair expert. He was taking a drink from the refrigerator and saw a lot of various drinks in it. Here Seok-Hwan deliberately bought a lot of drinks to aim for one of the prizes in the form of a washing machine so he could replace the washing machine in his house, which was broken. Seok-Hwan opened one of the drinks and saw the contents of the lid saying no luck yet. Seok-Hwan is seen talking to his wife about their unstable financial condition, but their life is quite happy thanks to their love for each other. Not long after, a young man came who wanted to repair his laptop. While waiting for Seok-Hwan to work on the young man's laptop, he gave his drink to the young man and his wife. Then, unexpectedly, in My Young's bottle cap, namely his wife, there was the main gift of a vacation to Hawaii. The three people were very surprised and happy because traveling to Hawaii had been the husband and wife's dream for so long. The husband and wife were happy with each other in front of the young man. The young man looked at the bottle cap with a look of surprise. When they arrived home, the husband and wife were in the kitchen discussing the main prize. My Young changes her mind. She feels that this will cost her a lot of money during the holidays. Not to mention that if we have to close the shop for a few days, it will be very detrimental, and My Young intends to sell the main prize. One day My Young welcomed her daughter after school. Seok-Hwan and My Young told her that they had given their daughter a holiday to Hawaii as a gift. Initially, My Young's decision was made, but finally she changed her mind. After seeing her daughter whining, her daughter, Na-rai, complained that her life was very unlucky, unlike her friends. Na-rai never goes on holiday at all, even just going camping. Na-rai cried and complained in front of her parents in the living room. At night, Na-rai, who was sleeping in her room, was covered by My Young. My Young, who was sitting next to Seok-Hwan, said that she felt sorry for Na-rai and she decided to go on vacation to Hawaii. After the two of them talked, they were finally happy, jumping up and down a little along with the snow falling outside the window. Elsewhere, a cell phone rang indicating a call from someone. A mysterious beautiful woman gets an unknown call that gives her a task. On a sunny day, a man seen from behind was in the middle of the city receiving a telephone call. The man in the black jacket was assigned by his superiors to catch a fugitive, whose pseudonym was Magnolia. It turns out that this man in a black jacket is Cheol-seong, a special forces officer from North Korea who is still alive after being shot by Gwae-soon several years ago. 2 days later, in a minibus, 7 men were seen inside and the windows were tightly closed, talking. Among the men was Cheol-seong, who sent his subordinates to capture Magnolia. This troop was led by a captain named Jong. After a brief briefing, the action began with all members leaving the minibus. Cheol-seong, who was at the airport, passed a man who was staring at a cell phone screen. The man glanced at Cheol-seong and then looked back at his cell phone screen. You can see Seok-Hwan holding his daughter and My Young next to him running through the airport toward customer service. The family arrived almost late. Fortunately, they still had time to board the plane. Even the good news was that 2 business class seats could be occupied for free. They ran to the plane to arrive on time. After that, My Young and Na-rai sat in business class seats while Seok-Hwan sat in economy class. Na-rai and her parents are very enthusiastic about going on holiday to Hawaii, especially since this is their first time on a plane. On the other hand, a steward named Hyun Min is acting as a spy. He did have the desire to become a secret agent, but his superiors rebuked his actions. It turns out that this happy little family boarded the same plane as the mysterious woman, as well as Cheol-ha and his men. But until then, nothing had happened, everything was still smooth until the plane flew. Again, it shows the mother and child who are even more excited because they got free food. Meanwhile, at the back, Seok-ha looks familiar with an old grandfather named Park. Park asked Seok-ha, "That's your wife next to you?" They both looked at Seok-ha next to him and were surprised when a man with long hair looked back. Park also said that he was going to meet his grandson who lives in Hawaii. Then to fill the travel time, Park invited him to chat more. Not wanting to waste much time, Cheol-ha immediately mobilized his men to look for Magnolia. Meanwhile, this mysterious woman realized something and immediately rushed to the toilet. Young, who was drinking, felt a stomachache and wanted to go to the toilet because she had eaten a lot which was provided free on the plane. Young, who was in front of the business class toilet, had been filled by the mysterious woman. Young couldn't hold it any longer, she went straight to the toilet in economy class. But before that, she had entrusted Na-rai to his father who was busy chatting. Young finally feels relieved to be able to go to the toilet on time. A man who was seen going back and forth, namely Cheol-ha's subordinate, never found Magnolia, and he stopped when asked by a flight attendant. Cheol-ha, who also knew this, finally decided to use the second plan, namely hijacking the plane, to filter all passengers so that it is easy to find Magnolia. In the cabin hallway, Steward Hyun-min accidentally caught one of Cheol-ha's men grumbling after getting a message from his cell phone that the mission had been changed. Hyun-min, who was suspicious, immediately reported it to the head flight attendant. Instead, he was scolded and considered playing around too much. At the same time, the plane began to experience turbulence. All passengers were advised to sit down and wear seat belts by the flight attendant. But not Cheol-ha. Instead, he got up from his seat, knocked off the flight attendant's head, and knocked out Hyun-min with one punch. This was followed by his men starting to take action, threatening the passengers. The passengers were ordered to gather in the same place, including Seok-ha and his child. Things got even hotter when Cheol-ha forced his way into the cockpit by holding a flight attendant hostage. After entering, Cheol-ha ordered the pilot to change the flight route. In this action, one of the hijackers was trapped in a room because the door was blocked by something long and heavy. Meanwhile, Young still doesn't realize that the plane is being hijacked. She is busy dressing up in the toilet. Elsewhere, the State Intelligence Agency, or BIN, for short, is aware of the hijacking of the plane. They also determined that the temporary suspect was none other than Gwae-soon, the North Korean secret agent. Gwae-soon is seen who was caught on a CCTV camera by BIN and is on the list of most wanted people so far because she has turned from North Korea to South Korea. On the plane where the women are gathered together to make the search easier, here Cheol-ha finds a mysterious woman who is suspected to be Magnolia. Feeling threatened, this woman tried to escape but was caught by Captain Jang. After quite a long time in the toilet, one of the hijackers finally discovered Young's whereabouts and suddenly attacked her. However, an unexpected thing happened when the mother of one child was able to ward off all attacks and even paralyzed him. Moving on to BIN. It is discovered that Gwae-soon is Young who has had plastic surgery. Seen on a projector screen between Gwae-soon and Young, whose face is made to look older to perfect the disguise. And it turns out, the Magnolia that Cheol-ha has been hunting for is Gwae-soon alias Young. Then who is this mysterious woman? She is a famous actress named On-sira who is trying to hide her whereabouts from the public. On-sira was suspected by Cheol-ha because her looks and stature resembled Gwae-soon in the past. After that, Cheol-ha started broadcasting an announcement where he asked Magnolia to immediately surrender. Young, who was in the toilet and faced the man who was sitting limply, heard the words "Magnolia, do you still remember my voice?" From the broadcast. Young is aware of who she has to face and the emotional look on her face. Then there is a small flashback to the past. Gwae-soon or Young is asked by her father to cancel the mission at the beginning of the film. For nothing other than his safety, his father even told her to go to South Korea to create a new identity and live a normal, happy life. Young is seen in the operating room with a changed face and Young is seen holding her daughter happily in her cake shop. Turning to Seok-ha and Na-rai who are in the passenger seat, he wanted to look for Young and entrust Na-rai to Mr. Park's grandfather. Slowly but surely, Seok-ha managed to escape from the guard of the plane hijackers. Unfortunately, the Young he was looking for was not found. He took a laptop and went to the cargo hold to find access to hack CCTV and read the plane's systems like a hacker. At the same time, Hyun-min was asked by a hijacker to show the passenger list. The goal is none other than to find out Magnolia's true identity. At this time, unexpectedly, it turns out that Young was hiding upstairs and immediately beat the hijacker until he fainted. After that, Mi-young asked for the passenger list to be burned so that her and her family's identities would not be exposed to criminals. Finally, they worked together. Mi-young disguises herself as a flight attendant to be able to sneak around more easily. Meanwhile, Hyun-min will look for emergency weapons in the cargo room. Mi-young calmly begins to beat the criminals with her martial arts skills. In the next cabin, Mi-young still has to fight and is forced to cover her face so her daughter can't see it. However, that doesn't stop her from fighting like a martial arts expert. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Seok-ae-twan manages to hack CCTV and find out Cheol-seong's complete identity. Seok-ae-twan was shocked to learn that Cheol-seong was a secret agent from North Korea. Then how can Seok-ae-twan access all this data? It turns out he is a former member of BIN. Somehow, he was also able to contact BIN headquarters to inform them of the situation at that time. Unfortunately, BIN did not allow him to be involved further because he was no longer a member of BIN. Not long after, Hyun-min came to Seok-ae-twan's place and was about to attack secretly, but was easily blocked. In short, Hyun-min knows that Seok-ae-twan is on his side. There are now 3 people on the team, including Mi-young. However, this husband and wife acted without knowing each other. Still not giving up, Seok-ae-twan started to plow the plane's steering wheel, then returned it to its original route. But Cheol-seong realized the action via CCTV pointing at Seok-ae-twan and was caught. On the other hand, Hyun-min had left the cargo room because he couldn't find a weapon. He crawled to the top of the plane and then went into a room to get a rifle or electric rifle. It turns out this is the same room where the criminal hijacker was trapped. Meanwhile, Mi-young is still involved in a fierce fight. This time with Captain Jang. Even though she was cornered, he was finally able to make him collapse. Still in the same place, suddenly, Cheol-seong came with a quite fierce expression on his face. Between the two of them, then followed by the arrival of Seok-ae-twan, who was arrested. Here Cheol-seong also reveals Seok-ae-twan's identity as a member of BIN, and this makes Mi-young shocked beyond belief. The couple was taken to a room past the people in the cabin, including Na-rai, who looked shocked to see her father and mother caught. Likewise with Hyun-min, who was secretly watching from the plane. To make Na-rai calm in this difficult situation, old grandfather Park gave her a doll that was supposed to be given to his grandson in Hawaii. In a room, Seok-ae-twan and Mi-young are tied with rope and turn their backs to each other. So far, they have both hidden their identities in the past. Seok-ae-twan admitted that he had worked for BIN, namely to supervise Mi-young, who had just moved to South Korea at that time. This statement also made Mi-young sad, but Seok-ae-twan added that his love for his wife was truly sincere, not because of work demands or anything else. The story flashbacks to the past, where Seok-ae-twan disguises himself as a homeless person to monitor Mi-young, who is known to be cruel. But in reality, he instead saw a woman with a soft and kind heart. Since then, Seok-ae-twan began to fall in love and the two of them got married. The problem of Seok-ae-twan's past is over. Now it's Mi-young's turn to ask, "You don't mind if I'm Magnolia?" she said. And Seok-ae-twan answered that it wasn't a problem. "You are my only wife and the mother of my daughter. It doesn't matter what your past is," he answered. Then suddenly a voice was heard crying, which turned out to be the criminal who had been trapped. His fate became even more unlucky after being tied up by Hyun-min. An unexpected incident occurs again, where Jang betrays Cheol-seong. He has a different plan, where he wants to sell Mi-young at a high price. Knowing that Mi-young is the most wanted person in North Korea, Jang also adds that he and his men will go by parachute. Meanwhile, Cheol-seong is the one who will be made to fall with the plane. But Cheol-seong didn't want that to happen because the plane was carrying innocent people. Once Cheol-seong fought back, unfortunately, he was still cornered. Then Jang asked the pilot to fly lower so he could escape using a parachute. Even though it was dangerous, the pilot was forced to comply. Jang also pointed his gun at Cheol-seong to threaten him. Finally, Cheol-seong is locked up with Mi-young and Seok-ae-twan, and this is where the truth begins to emerge. The plane descended quickly and shocked the passengers by feeling like they were jumping in their seats, and some even fell face down. Cheol-seong's goal in capturing Mi-young was to protect her. In the past, Mi-young's father was an important person who was able to seal the discovery of nuclear weapons. But a bad person appears who wants to open the seal for bad purposes. None other than this bad person is Cheol-seong's superior, who ordered him to arrest Magnolia alias Gwi-soon or Mi-young. This is related to Mi-young because the key to opening the seal is in her iris. Here they also clear up past misunderstandings. In the past, Cheol-seong never tried to betray Mi-young. However, Mi-young was too suspicious after being asked by her father not to trust anyone. So there was a shooting between Mi-young and Cheol-seong. At the same time, Hyun-min appeared from above the ventilation to assist, and they decided to work together against Jang. Cheol-ha Lee hacks the plane by turning off the lights on the plane. At the same time, Byeong and Cheol-ha Lee started to carry out their actions. The two of them fought with the help of other passengers. After that, all the criminals can be paralyzed, including Jong. The situation returned to normal and the plane returned to its original course. When Cheol-ha Lee packed his things and was about to leave using a parachute, suddenly Grandpa Park appears and shoots Cheol-ha Lee while holding Na-rai hostage. It turns out this grandpa is Cheol-ha Lee's boss, or you could say he killed Byeong's father 11 years ago. The grandfather also expressed his disappointment with Cheol-ha Lee for betraying their organization. Cheol-ha Lee had no idea where the boss was on the plane because all this time Grandpa Park had always hidden his identity. Even Grandpa Park also hid his identity from his subordinates at once. After that, Grandpa Park told Byeong to come with him if he wanted his child to be safe. Cheol-ha Lee, who felt emotional, wanted to shoot him with a gun, but unfortunately, the device didn't work. He was even shot in front of his wife and children, and the entire incident was seen by the passengers on the plane. Byeong is very forced to obey Grandpa Park. To save Na-rai and the people on the plane, Byeong wore a parachute suit to go with Grandpa Park, but before jumping from the plane, Byeong gave Na-rai a code to throw her doll. Then Na-rai did what her mother ordered by throwing the doll out. Then he dropped Grandpa Park, who was careless. It turned out that Grandpa had put a bomb in the doll to blow up the plane. As a secret agent, of course, Byeong could know that, so how could Na-rai know if she had to throw the doll? Because previously, Byeong had whispered this plan to Na-rai. In the plane, Cheol-ha Lee, who was shot, is still alive, all thanks to the Kevlar that Cheol-ha Lee gave him some time ago. After that, Cheol-ha Lee said goodbye and left Byeong to Cheol-ha Lee, saying take good care of Gwai soon. He said. Cheol-ha Lee answered, "Why did you ask me to look after my wife?" He answered. After that, Cheol-ha Lee looked happy. He got out of the plane wearing a parachute suit. On the other hand, the passengers began to catch the criminals and tie them up. Meanwhile, BIN members received information that the plane hijacking had been handled, and the plane continued to fly to Hawaii. The story of this film closes with Na-rai happily enjoying her drink and a husband and wife couple holding hands crossing a bridge over a beach in Hawaii. Here Cheol-ha Lee explains that the trip to Hawaii was his plan all along. He deliberately saved for all this. So the holiday gift was just a lie because the bottle cap was made by Cheol-ha Lee himself. And the film ended.